Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brad Brown. That's Joe Lissette. We're getting ready to jump into Stage 2, which is going to be Legacy. I think we showed a preview video of that we recorded yesterday. But before we do, I wanted to kind of wrap up Pioneer, wrap up Stage 1. We don't have a graphic for you, but I can tell you who the winners were of each pod. So looking at Pod A, it was Darren Shahinian who won that pod. Oh, there we go. I forgot we had this. Sweet. Thank you. And then in Pod B, Will Chang was our winner there. Pod C was Ray Huang. Pod D was Grant Wozniak. Pod E was Lewis Kaplan. And Pod F was Mark Kelly.
Lewis is going to be feeling good.
For sure.
Because that was the roughest pod, I believe. And coming out of there with all the wins, that's great for him.
You know, the other kind of storyline here is that Forrest and Lewis were the switch. So Lewis got put into this rough pod, and he came out the winner.
Good for him.
He's going to be feeling real good.
Because he couldn't have been happy about that.
No, for sure not. But, you know, one thing I respect about Lewis is his mentality around Magic. You know, fair is fair. And he actually said, you know, I feel a huge amount of respect that I was that switch, right? And for him to just kind of, I don't want to say suck it up, but just to like take what was dealt with him and make such a positive experience out of it is definitely something I think Lewis is very good at.
So these are what we're seeing now. These are the.
Oh,
these are the.
Yeah.
So we have a bit of a
So we got a little bit of a hiccup here.
So we're reading off the winners of the Stage 1 pods.
Yes.
What we're looking at now are the Stage 2 pods, which we're going to be playing Legacy, which is why I'm now in the booth.
Which is why I was also confused because I didn't think we had a Pioneer Stage pod graphic, and then I was like, wait, we do? So yes, we'll go to that in just a minute. We'll talk more about that. But again, just kind of wanted to go over the winners of Pioneer and talk about Lewis Kaplan winning. But for the most part, there were some shakeups. Pod A, I think Joe Bernal was a huge Joseph Bernal, Joe, was a huge favorite to win, and Darren kind of squeaking that one out, being one of the three-pointers coming out. Ray Wong, I think everyone really liked his deck choice and his list specifically, so glad to see him.
He was playing Blue-Eye Control.
Yeah.
I watched some of his match against the Hardened Scales, and it was basically the player started to flood the board, and then, do you have Supreme Verdict? Yes. Okay, well, that's bad news for me. And that was basically the end of it.
And that seemed to be, that's Robert Lifton you're talking about, and that seemed to be his strategy against Blue-White Control. He also played against Matt Hoey and was able to beat Matt Hoey with this very similar strategy, which is I'm going to put all my permanents on the board, and if you have a Supreme Verdict, I'm probably going to lose, and if you don't, you know, just put him to the test, I guess is what he was trying to do. So let's now jump over to our Legacy pods. So, Jack, if you want to pull that up for us. So going back to this graphic again, we can look at Pod A. Well, before I go into Pod A, let's talk about how we got these pods. So if you haven't watched the structure video, at the end of our Pioneer pod, or end of Stage 1, we took a 3-pointer, a 2-pointer, a 1-pointer, and a 0-pointer, and we basically randomized the field, tried to make it so no one else was in a pod with anyone else who was in their previous pod, and keep that point distribution the same. So in Pod A, there's a 3-pointer, which is Darren. The 2-pointer is, I think, Phil? Nope, not Phil.
No, Phil is a 0.
Luke Christensen. Oh, I'm still wrong. Wow. I forgot how complicated this gets. The total number of points is the same. So there are 6 points in this pod. So Darren was a 3-pointer. Luke was also a 3-pointer.
Oh, we have 2 3s and 2 0s in
and
this
2
one.
zeros,
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so forgiving our little hookup on the structure we came up with ourselves. And
so why don't you walk us through these pods while my brain
okay,
down.
So what we're looking at here is we went over Pod A. Pod B with Will Chang, Clayton Wilbanks, Matt Hoey, and Forrest Winstead. Pod C is Ray Huang, who won his first pod. Matt Dow, Evan Gascoigne, and Kyle Stentel. Over in D, we have Grant Wozniak, Robert Litvin, Joseph Bernal, and Alex Sarver. Pod E, we have Lewis Kaplan, Simon Camero, Tom Tracy, and Andrew Waltice. And Pod F, Mark Kelly, Sam Zakruski, Zach Cummins, and Sam Black. I think I did a reasonably good job with those names.
Yeah,
I have to say. And so the pod we're going to start with is the pod with
Tom Tracy and Andrew.
Andrew Woltheis, because those are our feature match for this round, and it should be a good one.
Pod E.
So pod E is where we're starting. So we have Tom Tracy, Andrew Woltheis, and then the rest of their pod, Simon Camero and Lewis Kaplan. So they'll be facing each other, and then they'll intermix for the next round. And what we have is two, I would say, fringe decks would be a fair statement.
Well, and I just want to point this out too. Lewis Kaplan also, like, you expect some type of metagame. Simon Camaro's playing Enchantress.
Right.
So Lewis is on a pod with Enchantress, Blue Black Ninjas, and Dead Guy Ale. Probably not a matchup he ever expected to play in any of these potential matchups.
No, certainly not. I mean, we kind of like the Enchantress deck for the field overall. I don't know that Ninjas is something that he would have ever considered playing, like you're saying.
Right.
But we're going to start with Ninjas versus Dead Guy Ale. I would imagine that this is going to be a fairly competitive match. It's going to be creatures intermixing. I think the Ninjas deck is going to have to get out ahead. I think that's the way this deck runs. You need to be out on the board early, connecting with Ninjas for your draw triggers, and that's the strength of the deck. Like the Dead Guy Ale deck, I mean, we have a 2-drop that also generates card advantage, but doesn't have to attack. It just sits there with Dark Confidant. So, Andrew definitely cannot fall behind.
So I'm really hoping this is still our pairings because we've been notified in our ears. Why don't we come back to the booth, Jack? We've had this pod graphic up for a while. We were just notified in our ears that there is a repair. Something needs to get resolved. I think an incorrect reported match by the sounds of it from the previous round, so we just need to do a few updates. But I'm hoping it's still Tom Tracy and Andrew.
Well, if it's not, we have plenty of other players and interesting stuff. We'll have a good matchup for you people at home in shortly.
Hopefully.
Shortly, yeah.
This is kind of an interesting format. So we're doing 3 stages: Pioneer, Legacy, and now we know that Modern is last.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting metagame choices this weekend for sure. We kind of talked about what you would play in Legacy in our earlier video, which was some type of...
I was perfectly happy with the Mant Miracles deck cutting the Miracles.
Sure.
I was spent years playing the Miracles any chance I could. We're done with that.
Yeah.
We're off that now. I like a lot of the rest of the cards in the deck, but now, I mean, Planeswalkers is where we want to be at.
Right.
And we want maximize blue cards for the
what about
multiple kinds of forces that we have in our decks now.
What about like Terminus and Entreat has turned you off?
Well, you have to actually put in work to be able to cast them on the opponent's turn now.
Sure.
You need to have a brainstorm.
Right.
You need to have, and it's just, before we had this 1-mana artifact, Sensei's Divine Top, that sat on the board until you needed it, and it was convenient. It lets you set up the cards. You see what's coming. Now, without that, I'm just not interested. I think the work you have to do to enable these cards is just not worth it anymore.
Sure.
Entreat the Angels is a fantastic card, and preparing for the event I played in last week, Entreat the Angels is a card I would have liked to have because it's a great threat. A lot of decks aren't equipped to deal with it, but it's not easy to play. It's basically, the way it functions now is probably the way it was intended originally. And that's just not good enough, really. I don't think it's good enough. There are some Entreat the Angels in our field.
Right.
And I think those players' decks would be improved just by cutting them for something else.
Yeah. Yeah, Legacy being shaken up with this band recently is pretty huge.
Definitely.
I love it. I think Ren and 6 was atrocious for this format.
I think Ren 6 was a very cool design, and it was a little too strong.
Yeah.
We had Rug Delver with Ren 6 and Oko as the best deck in Legacy. And, I mean, the strengths of relative decks in Legacy is, ebbed and flowed over the years. Right. But we had Rug Delver just crushing.
Yeah.
And that needed to be stopped. And it was. We could have eventually, maybe the deck would have been solved eventually, the right mix of sideboard cards and hate against it. But that it persisted through the whole summer, was still dominant. So Wizards acted, and I think they did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, the combination of Wasteland plus Wrenn and 6 alone just like shuts down a lot of decks. You got to. I mean, there is a lot of snow, where Wasteland is weak against that, but at the same time, this inevitability of this ray traceability that Wrenn and 6 gave you too was just like such a lights out game finishing thing. And
now we have a lot of. I mean, there are a lot of snow decks now, and like you see, that's probably. I wonder if Arkham's Astrolabe is the most common.
Oh, sure.
Card other than the blue cantrips and probably Force of Will is more, but Arkham's Astrolabe is certainly a commonly played card now, and it's fine. It's it's not. It helps your mana. It enables things, but it's not a source of card advantage. The thing with Wrenn and 6 was, I mean, Legacy. It seems like the cards are so strong, but really there's not that much card advantage in the format. There's a lot of excellent filtering. Which gets played in place of the advantage, but really for advantage you need things like Snapcaster Mage, Planeswalkers, things that actually generate 2-for-1s, and Wrenn and 6 is just always going to be card advantage. And so yeah, getting rid of that. I mean, now we have Oko, which is also frequently card advantage. It's not as bad of a problem, I don't think, but it's close.
See, I love formats and metagames when, like you said, you have a lot of 2-for-1s, but like a card on its own isn't going to generate 3, 4, 5 cards worth of advantage over the course of the game. That's just, it snowballs so quickly that way.
And it's so good. It's cheap and it's so good late.
Right.
Like Hymn to Turok is going to be a 2-for-1 on turn 2 every time.
Sure, right.
But if you draw it on turn 7, it's probably not worth anything.
Right.
Wrenn and 6 is always good.
Sure.
And that was a problem.
Yeah, I love the band personally. I'm a huge Death and Taxes fan. I've always really enjoyed playing the deck. Flicker Wisp is one of my favorite Magic cards. Aether Vialing that card in, I love it. I absolutely love it. I wish that it would get. I wish Flicker Wisp was legal and standard. I really do.
Okay.
I hope that they print that card again. And so with the Wrenn and 6 band, that deck kind of coming out of the woodwork again, really has me interested.
Yeah, and certainly showing up in our tournament.
Yeah, 3 copies of Death and Taxes and some.
And not like 3 copies of the same archetype, but slight differences.
Yeah.
Amongst them, both
especially in the lands.
In the land composition and the sideboards, there are differences. So I'm actually interested to see how that plays out. One of the players leaning more heavily towards control decks answers with 3 copies of Cataclysm, which. That's a lot. I mean, going back years, 1 or 2 Cataclysms or 0 was what you saw. 3 is a gigantic number of a card that is really lights out against Planeswalkers, as you were describing yesterday, getting casting it, I believe, in a Grand Prix.
Yeah, I was my first ever Grand Prix with Death and Taxes. I borrowed the deck from someone. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just wanted to play it. I think it was like I ended the day like X and 1. Which, for your first Legacy Grand Prix, you got to be feeling really good. But I remember it was like round 6, I'm undefeated, and I have a Gideon out on the field, and my opponent has a Planeswalker, but I want a Cataclysm. And so I cast it, and I picked the various targets, and then I realized he puts his Planeswalker in the graveyard, and I'm like, wait, what? Oh, right. And we were talking like, I didn't even use my Gideon, it wouldn't have mattered, but I could have like turned it into a creature and kept that as my creature. And I did end up winning the game. But after that moment, when I realized the true power level of the card, I was like, now I understand why people put this in their sideboard. I thought it was just for like the lands deck, basically. But it's much more powerful.
And Legacy is just, there's so many cards going back. I mean, Cataclysm is obviously an old card.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cards going back a long way that have a big impact. They're powerful things that, I mean, we talk about power creep sometimes, but really there's a lot of old cards that are unique effects in Legacy that don't exist in other places, and seeing them come together in different ways is part of the fun of this format.
Right. So that's what's interesting to me is, like, I think of a card like Sneak Attack, right? And there's a lot of power that you can do with that, like putting in an Emrakul and attacking with it, Annihilator triggers and all this other stuff, right? But then I think about Oko, and I think, like, Oko seems to be the more powerful card, right? But Sneak Attack in itself is a very powerful effect. So, like, where did we go wrong? Because all of these old cards that everyone's like, they're super powerful, they're fun to build around. But now Oko's super powerful. Is it just because it's not fun to build around?
So I'm not sure we can let you slide on Oko being more powerful. So Oko is a really, really strong card. Is it better? Is it more powerful than Sneak Attack? I'm not sure.
No, definitely not.
Going back to what you're talking about here, is Oko not fun because it's is just so.
I guess my point is like old powerful cards that
Yeah.
are being played, like Omniscience, Sneak Attack, Show and Tell, like these types of cards, they're really powerful and you can cheat things into play, are like okay for Legacy. Everyone thinks that, right? We can play all these powerful cards, but then you sneak Oko into the format, and all of a sudden everyone's like, "Please ban this card."
Yeah, but it's also because it's new. People don't like changes.
Yeah, okay. But is that the only reason? I'm
No,
saying, is that justified?
So I mean, it's some of the strength of the card is that it's so powerful by itself. You
right.
can have nothing going on.
It's not a build around card.
Yeah, and it's like it's not like Sneak Attack. You need some overcosted creature which is otherwise dead in your hand.
Right.
Oko just goes to work on its own, and it just builds and builds and builds, and it's hard to stop on its own. You can have it in decks. The reason why the card can get played so much is because you can have a 57 card deck that's trying to do one thing,
right,
and then you have 3 Okos, which is a reasonably good defensive card, and then also it's a threat that has to be dealt with directly. Planeswalker's not that easy to deal with. It's red at least. If it wasn't red, like we have a huge problem, which was part of the strength of Ren at 6.
right,
Was that you couldn't
Pyroblast.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's blue, so Oko's easier to deal with, but still, it's just on its own. It's defensive. It's aggressive. It wipes it. If you don't have your Sneak Attack, you just Show and Tell in your Emrakul. Bing, no problem.
Here's a good question. What was the last permanent that was printed in Standard that's gone into Legacy that wasn't a Planeswalker?
Ooh.
So right now,
Okay.
I'm thinking like all the overpowered cards we're seeing in Legacy are like Veil to spell,
Right.
all these Planeswalkers to Fairy, Narset,
Yeah.
Oko, right? But what was the last, say, creature or enchantment that was played?
My immediate go-to was going to be Ice Fang Quaddle, but that wasn't in Standard.
Right.
So
It was a printed
that
Modern
doesn't work.
Horizons. So Astrolabe is also another example that was printed in Modern Horizons.
Right.
So chat, help out. What do we got?
Yeah, that's
Dreadhorde Arcanist. That's a good one.
That is a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're not going back as far as Delver.
No, like
But
say
but
last 2-3 years.
Well, I'm trying to think if there is, if we're going to come up with some.
Right.
Um,
So Karn is a Planeswalker. That's another one that's in fact of the format. But
Giver of Runes saw some play,
a little bit, yeah.
but I think
that was because
of Ren 6.
But that was also Modern Horizons, right?
Yeah. But the Giver of Runes impact is kind of on the way. You know what?
I meant Giver of Runes was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Gildy Goose? Or do we see a few Gildy Gooses? A couple.
We do, yeah, occasionally.
Yeah.
But that's probably because of Oko.
Sure.
We probably wouldn't play that card if Oko wasn't legal.
Yeah, that is definitely true.
Right.
What
do we got? Borrower. Borrower's a good example. We're starting to see that pop
is a
up.
good one. Yeah, we are. We're seeing that in a lot of sideboards. That's an interesting card because I feel like you could convince yourself to board it in against approximately like 87% of the format, and yet it's in most sideboards. It's not in main decks.
Right. These adventure cards, by the way, are super cool and super powerful.
They are. They're very nicely done, and they don't seem like they didn't. There's not one that's just busted unfair, is there?
Right.
I don't think so.
I can't think of any.
Yeah.
A lot of the cards people are mentioning in chat are Modern Horizons printed. We were talking specifically Standard.
Right.
I do think there was certainly a level of power put into Modern Horizons that
definitely.
can certainly fit into Legacy. 100%.
Yeah.
Great examples are like Elvish Reclaimer. What was the other one I saw? I don't even remember. But we were really trying to think about Standard, something that wasn't printed for kind of the Eternal formats.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's not easy because so many of the cards are old or they're spells or planeswalkers.
Right.
But we have certainly Legacy's changed so much. It's so dynamic in the last year, and some people are thinking like maybe we'll see more bans. Could Veil of Summer get banned?
Please just get rid of that card in Oko. And let's just say they never existed.
I think Veil of Summer is fine. I think it's
in
fine
in Legacy.
I think it's fine in Modern too.
Okay.
I think it's important to allow. It's a defensive card. Like how, for the most part, in Legacy it can be used as an aggressive card.
It definitely seems I've seen, especially at the PC last week. I saw it used many times as an offensive card where you cast it first, and then you start resolving all of your spells,
which is super powerful and stuff like Storm. And yet, interestingly, our Storm player in Legacy this weekend is not playing the card.
Right.
In the main deck, he has it in the sideboard, I believe, but it's not in the main, and that's something I think you could do. Still, some of these cards are new enough that maybe they have, nobody really has the answers of exactly how many of these cards do you want, because it's a unique effect. It's great against so many decks, and yet we have 3 Death and Taxes decks where it's worth 0. And so, yeah, maybe not having a main was the way to go.
Is Charming Prince made its way into Death and Taxes yet?
In the modern versions, it is. It's definitely there in the modern versions. I don't think it's in Legacy.
Not quite powerful enough. I mean, Scry 2's good, but
Scry 2's fine.
Like the flicker effect is kind of good.
The life gain effect does not have a ton of value in Legacy, and so it loses some. And plus, we just have a lot of other options. We have the hate bears that matter more.
Right.
That you're not necessarily required to play in Modern.
All right, so just to give you guys an update on where we stand right now is that we understand you want to watch Magic. We want to watch Magic too. That's what we're here for. So we're getting an update in our ear right now. Jack, do you want to give? Okay, so we're still waiting on that repair to be done. I appreciate everyone's patience with us. Like I said, we're here to commentate on Magic.
Yeah, I haven't even done anything yet today.
Yeah, Joe just got in the booth. So I want to watch Magic too, and even when I'm on break, like I'm usually out watching Magic.
Yeah.
So I totally understand. Please bear with us.
Yeah, I got to watch some Pioneer stuff this morning. I saw the Lotus Field deck in a matchup where both players thought the Lotus Field deck was heavily favored, lost. I believe that was on camera.
It was the 5-color Niv deck?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was sitting next to them watching that match, and that was, I've played against the Lotus Field deck in Modern. But yeah, seeing it in Pioneer, and it looks like it functions similarly.
Yeah.
And he kind of got shredded, and both players were surprised. So it's
I mean, we talked about it. If Grant had like 5 cards that were good against the deck game 1, and he just happened to draw 3 of them.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be good enough sometimes.
Yeah. That's something that's constantly on my mind in Legacy, because there's so many powerful sideboard cards in any sort of deck, really, like something like a Singleton Sylvan Library in a sideboard, and can you really bring in your disenchant effect for a 1 card? No, not really. But then it lands, and it's so frustrating.
Right.
And we have so many cards like this that are strong. It makes playing Legacy difficult, because in the other formats, like Modern, we have powerful sideboard cards, but we're going to see like maybe 3 copies of them frequently.
Right.
With Legacy, you might see 1 or 2, and it's harder to play against that. That was something I really kind of tried to keep in mind building my deck for the Legacy portion that I was in last week. Was I want, well, for Modern portion too, but especially for Legacy, I want to have a deck, because deck lists are open as they are here, and I want something that's hard to play against, that you can't, like, if you know I have 1 Sylvan Library, that doesn't make it easy for you.
Yeah, a good example of this actually is earlier we saw Bob Wong play against Matt Hoey, and Bob had mentors in his side. So Hoey has to leave in Supreme Verdicts, right? And they could just be dead cards in the early game, and Bob could take over with Planeswalkers with this dead Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
So like you said, you have to have a sideboard strategy that your opponent has to essentially respect. Or Ray Wong's song. Did I say Bob? I'm so sorry, Ray.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's just, I don't know. I love Legacy. I hadn't played much of it this year until I would say about a month and a half ago, and I really started getting back into it again, updating my decks and with the metagame and what all was going on. And the games, I just over a span of several years, I just feel like, I'm biased and I realize that, but I just feel like Legacy consistently has more interesting dynamic games than the other formats. And even though, the cards are stronger, but the defenses are stronger too. And I feel like we have just the potential of really good games. Some of the decks we have here today, they're going to be like Ninjas. Ninjas is going to, whether it wins or gets pancaked, it's going to create interactive games, because that's just what it does.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these decks play out.
Well, and what I love about decks like this is that you really, especially if your opponent has ever played around it, there's all of these decision points where that other player, your opponent, has to figure out, what are my most important cards that I need to kill? When should I use my removal? You can't just fire it off sometimes.
Right. Because because we have efficient cantrips, we can find the cards we need, so we don't have as many of them.
Right.
And so we might have a deck with, 4 removal spells, and that's all you have.
Right.
And so, your opponent goes 2-drop, 3-drop. You can't just think to yourself, well, I'll just kill them both. Like, you gotta know which one matters.
Right.
And that can be tricky if you're playing against, I don't know, Ninjas, a deck that you haven't seen before. Or against Enchantress, where maybe your removal's worthless and you need Narsets, but you didn't bring them because they're not that great in the format anymore. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to what we got. Okay, so we do have a match now.
Okay, so the repair's done. Things have been fixed. We finally got our match. So we are going to be watching Tom Tracy on Dead Guy Ale, and we've got the other deck was going to be Mark Kelly, I believe I heard Jack
that's
say,
what it was.
which was an Is It Delver. Blue-red Delver. No third color.
Okay, we'll find the deck list in a moment.
So yeah, they are shuffling up right now, and we will probably jump down in just a few seconds.
All right, so Dead Guy versus Is It Delver. There's going to be some burn element combined with Dark Confidant, so Tom's going to have to watch his life total a little bit. However, these creatures
Sword of Fire
have
Nice.
to. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's not getting blocked. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Stoneforge Mystic, there are good threats in this Dead Guy L deck that are easy to kill, but need to be killed.
Right.
So we'll see. Definitely the Is It Delver deck is going to probably want to prioritize. I would say he's like having, if you had a choice of a Delver of Secrets or a Lightning Bolt in your opening hand, obviously you don't have this, but if you had that choice, in a lot of matchups you would choose to start with a Delver. Here I think you would choose to start with the Lightning Bolt.
Right. All right, so players are rolling some dice here.
Yeah, this the Blue-Red Delver deck is kind of a classic tempo deck. This like I was speaking about earlier about some decks having Brazen Borrowers in the sideboard that come in very frequently. That's the case here. There are two in the sideboard that are going to, well, in this case, probably wish they were in the main, although they aren't.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that, especially if you're going down to just a two-color Delver deck, that these Brazen Borrowers are not in the main board. And it seems like just a great answer to something like a Sword of Fire Nice. Like
Yeah.
You can bounce the actual sword.
Bouncing equipment is so nice because then you can pick off the creature in combat frequently.
Right.
So we have here the Is It Delver deck. We have a standard suite of cantrips and Force of Wills. We do have a mixer of removal of Lightning Bolts, one Mag Sinkhole, and two Chain Lightnings. And then creatures, we have Delver of Secrets, Dreadhorde Arcanist, Young Pyromancer, Trinity Nemesis. So there's nothing outside the box really going on here, but that does not mean the deck's going to be easy.
So just to give, there were some questions in chat. Just to give you an update. So we're now in stage 2. We have fresh pods, so the records are 0-0 in their stage right now. But if you do want to know, Mark Kelly won his pod, so he's a 3-pointer, and Tom Tracy got 1 point out of his pod.
Oh.
So it is a 3-pointer playing a 1-pointer.
Yeah, so Mark Kelly, so the way that the structure's set up here, if you earn max points in any two formats, then you'll advance to day 2. No, that's not the only way to do it, but it's set up so that if you do, then you will advance. So Mark Kelly, having won his Pioneer pod, if he wins his Legacy pod, he's in. Yeah,
we think, based on simulations that we've run and stuff, that you will need an average of 5 points to get in. Maybe a 4-pointer can sneak in, but it seems pretty rare.
That seems unlikely, yeah. And so Tom Tracy with 1 point, he's looking to, best chance if he manages to pick up 2 points in both of the remaining pods, he's got a shot. If he can win one of the remaining pods, then he'll be looking good.
Yeah. And Mark really just, if he can win these next 2 matches, he gets that.
He should be in.
Yeah, he'll definitely be in.
All right, so it looks like
these players playing to win part of our $10,000 championship prize pool.
That's a nice award. And the invites are nice, too. 2 invites. That's really cool for winning this event.
Right. You get a PT invite, and then you get invited back to our champ next year.
And I can say from experience, I'm probably one of the few people that has direct experience with this. Winning the free invite back to an invitational type event like this is very, very nice.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, especially in your case where it's like they didn't do it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, now I didn't get to use my free invite. And then I thought it was really good of SCG to invite you back.
Yeah, I very much appreciated that.
Not all TOs, I think, would have done that.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that was cool is because of that, I got to find out that they were bringing back the Players' Championship a day before everyone else did, which was really neat.
That's cool.
All right, so Mark Kelly on a mulligan here, but also on the play, so he can get. So what do we have? His permanents that generate card advantage, which is not crucial to his deck are Dreadhorde Arcanist and Young Pyromancer. So the rest kind of we're trading 1-for-1 and we're just trying to push damage through. Those are the ones that can really get extra material for you.
So these Delver decks, are they typically on this whole 4 Force, 2 Force of Negation?
Yeah, I think that's pretty common now. We have 4 Force of Will, 4 Days, 2 Force of Negation, 2 Spell Pierce. I think actually too many decks are in on the Force of Negations.
Sure.
I kind of fell for that myself also.
Okay.
Because of the ability to run, 8 pitch counters, but really a lot of people are running 5 or 6. Combo decks are just kind of beaten down slightly more, and so then that reduces the need to actually have the 6th one.
Right.
So this is the most you could reasonably run, and I think in some respects maybe you could consider trying to get away with less.
So here we see Tom Tracy goes Swamp into Thoughtseize. We see Bolt, Young Pyromancer, Ponder, Wasteland, and Dreadhorde Arcanist. Decides to take the Young Pyromancer. What do you make of that?
I think that's fine. I mean, it's going to depend on what else is in Tom Tracy's hand. I'm reasonably okay with that choice. I like Mark Kelly's hand a lot. For a mulligan, this is a good hand. We had both of the creatures that generate actual advantage, and we did have like I was talking about, the Bolt versus Delver choice, and we did have the Bolt. So if Tom's turn here is a creature, and I like Mark Kelly's position quite a bit. I think the Dreadhorde Arcanist needs to be killed, or
I agree.
What are we even hoping for? If there's not another removal spell in Tom's hand, then I feel like we made the wrong choice on the discard spell.
That's what I was trying to understand, because I do feel like the Young Pyromancer is generating a lot of 1/1s, but Tom Tracy with these equipments could potentially not care too much about them.
Right.
Also, if you're playing like a Stoneforge Mystic, it blocks a 1/1 pretty well, right?
Yeah, and so here we have the Arcanist surviving, attacking, and this Ponder being recast, and now Mark Kelly has effectively made up his mulligan.
Right. And we're likely going to see a Lightning Bolt on this Dark Confidant.
I would think so. And
now, the one thing Tom has going for him is he didn't play a non-basic, and he does have a Liliana the Veil in his hand. So if Mark doesn't deploy another threat, he would be able to grab that.
And have a counter,
And that might be why he took the Young Pyromancer, because he had the Liliana.
Yeah, this is interesting. Mark Kelly, he must have another land in his hand already, because there are cases where I'll fire off a cantrip hoping to hit the next land drop to play the other spell. I feel like with the Dark Confidant on the board, that is too much of a risk. You need to have the other the mana source already locked up, and he does have it, and the Dark Confidant is going to bite the dust. And yeah, I think given that we're on a mulligan here, we're looking very good on Mark's side, and maybe better than we should be.
At this point, he's undone his mulligan.
Right.
No, again though, this Liliana will come down next turn. I believe Tom has a third lane. Gets to take out the Dreadhorde Arcanist. Yeah. And had he taken the Arcanist and not the Young Pyromancer, he wouldn't have been able to snag that
is very true. Even though taking a hit from Arcanist is much worse than Young Pyromancer, the Liliana just isn't going to be able to deal with the Pyromancer, whereas it very cleanly kills the Arcanist, and now the game is swung back towards Tom's direction.
We've kind of talked about those 2-for-1s, right? So Mark got a 2-for-1 off the Arcanist. He kind of undid his mulligan, got to recast the Ponder. But Tom landing a Planeswalker here, he's getting a 2-for-1 because he got to kill the creature and he gets to plus. So we're kind of back to parity where we started, right?
Yeah, Liliana is an interesting Planeswalker in that you can't activate twice and generate advantage. Like we're plussing here, this doesn't generate any advantage. We've still basically 1-for-1'd ourselves, or our opponent, but the Liliana remaining on the board represents future potential of picking up another card of value.
Right, but we did discard Lingering Souls, so we gained a little bit of value there.
Sure, and that's just a well-constructed deck. Like we have cards that make ourselves discard. We want things that can gain value from that, and here we see it. Now this, if I was going to be picky, and I'm that kind of person, I would say that if we're not using, we'll see if we use this Karakas for mana here. If we don't, I'm gonna say that this is a mistake, because there are Wastelands on Mark Kelly's deck and there are not Legends.
Sure.
So having the Plains untapped here is actually better than having the Karakas untapped.
Just to potentially wrap.
Just to potentially
Swords to Plowshare.
Anything that you like. Yeah.
Mana Time.
Anything that we could have going on either land will represent it, but one can be shut off by the opponent.
Right.
And there we see a waste. Now again, odds are this doesn't matter,
Right.
but you're also telling your opponent that I don't care, and
Right.
yeah,
Small percentage.
yeah, it's
right?
it's super small, but yeah, like I was saying, I notice those things and point them out and annoy people.
Tom does pick up a second black source here, which I think is very important because he has
Mm-hmm.
another copy of Liliana in his hand. We saw that flashback lightning bolt on the other Liliana from the Dread Horde Arcanist.
So we really traded just to finish up the topic of 1-for-1, 2-for-1s.
Yeah.
That Liliana actually traded even. It was a 1-for-1 because it killed the first Arcanist, and then this Arcanist killed it for free.
Right.
So we didn't actually have to expend a card to finish off the remaining loyalty.
Yep.
But still, if you're preventing your opponent from getting advantage, that's basically the same as having it yourself.
Right. So it does look like the Liliana will come down, and we're going to see a daze. And this is one of the dangers of playing a deck like Dead Guy Ale. You kind of are a tap-out control deck in some ways.
Sure. And that is painful because it's not just, your Liliana got countered. That was also the removal spell you were counting on for the Arcanist, which is now going to generate another card of value.
Exactly, yeah. Is Sunlance an unplayable card in like Death and Taxes? And it does 3 damage, right? It's not 2?
It is. It's
okay.
3 damage. It's a sorcery to a non-white.
It's a non-white.
I would say it's not main deckable.
Right, yeah, sure.
Could you sideboard it? So what are we looking to pick off here? Well, first off,
Arcanist for sure.
It's in this matchup it'd be great.
Yeah.
It kills. There's two true name.
Delvers.
There's 2 true name nemesis. It doesn't kill, but it kills everything else at mana advantage or even.
It could kill Elks.
Sure, against Oko. Yeah.
But, I mean, that's not
totally
what you want to be doing with it.
No, if Tom was looking for a removal spell that was fairly generic that can kill things in the early turns, I think it's a playable card.
Sure. Is it better than Dismember?
In a deck that has black mana, I would say no.
Sure.
I would rather have Dismember.
Right, that's fair. So really, if you were playing like D&T, maybe there's a decision point between Dismember and Sunlance.
Sure. Yeah. And even then, you'd really have to be confident in the metagame, because if you brought your generic removal spell on your sideboard in this tournament with Sunlance, well, then you have 2 potential mirrors out there that you can't play it in. But overall, I think it's a good. I mean, 1 mana for 3 damage is a good rate.
So Mark Kelly here, 2 cards in hand. Tom tries to stick a Stoneforge Mystic. Mark Kelly plays Force of Will, pitching Daze, and there's a little confusion there. Tom thought he cast the Daze, and then now we see Delver flipping off. I think that was a Ponder that he revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Mark is basically out of cards, but this Arcanist is just reloading.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I don't know if
that's another 2 Force of Wills.
Tom needs to remove this Arcanist, or at least be able to block and trade with it. Something.
Not much in the way of his deck to do that. A lot of these are 2 damage spells, like Collector Brutality. He's got the 4 Swords to Plowshares, but it's not going to be quite enough. What do we see here?
Oh, we saw Shambling Event come down tapped.
That is a Bitter Blossom, new art Bitter Blossom. So we're going to get some fairy tokens ready.
Okay.
Now, this is not a card I think in his main board he can really answer, right?
Mark Kelly may not be able to answer the Bitter Blossom, but
It's just going to erase
yeah,
it.
he might just kill Tom and not worry about it.
Yep.
Chain Lightning, half of a token. Well, all right.
No, it looks like the bolt went upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Or the chain lightning, and
And
then
after
he
it blocked.
had to block
Yeah.
the insectile aberration. This makes a lot of sense why he didn't force the Bitter Blossom, because now Tom's at 1. It's pretty much priced in attacking with the Shambling Event, right?
Yes, he is. But this, if
we can get the fairy out of the way,
we looked dead on the board. The Arcanist is going to, I don't. Is there something that can happen here? That can. Oh, the chain link's in the graveyard. Maybe there's no.
He flashed that back. He
right.
cast
If
it and flashed it
if
back.
there's no, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said graveyard. I looked at it in the exile pile and said, okay,
there's a
that's
sinkhole.
what it is.
That
A
should be
sinkhole,
enough.
that'll work.
Is that sorcery?
No, that's
It's
not going to
sorcery.
work. They cost too much.
Y- yeah. Sinkhole's instant.
Wait,
Yeah. Okay.
Magma Sinkhole is an instant, but
Right.
Dreadheart Arcanist allows you to play.
So he
A,
pondered into the sinkhole.
oh, it wasn't in the graveyard.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
He
I'm
pondered
sorry.
into the.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
pondered with the Arcanist
yeah, yeah.
trigger, got a
Okay,
sinkhole, and then delved away.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
That's
absolutely
what
works. I'll go ahead and see if I can misread any more board states for the next for the rest of this
I
game.
mean, there's a lot going on. Mark definitely realized he had lethal and took a lot of shortcuts. Yeah, for sure. So let's take a look at Tom Tracy's sideboard when Jack's ready to pull it up for us. Tom's gonna need some answers to some of these problem cards. So we've got a Containment Priest, 2 Ethersworn Kindness, 2 Thalia. Those will be pretty good here. Gideon of the Trials, a Liliana of the Last Hope, 1 Path to Exile, 4 Surgical Extractions, 1 Zealous Persecution, 1 Vindicate, and 1 Grafdigger's Cage. Now, I saw Tom right before we went to this view pulling that Grafdigger's Cage to the front.
Interesting.
That's a card I wouldn't necessarily have expected. It really only stops that Arcanist, right?
So I like a lot of these cards.
Sure.
I believe you're right. The cage is only going to stop the Arcanist, and it's going to stop his own Lingering Souls, is it not?
Yeah,
You're not supposed.
it would, yeah.
Yeah. So that seems like Aethersworn Canonist also would stop Arcanist from.
Yes.
Well, it would at least.
Kinda.
You could.
It could be your only spell.
Yeah.
Right.
It could be your only spell, but then it would shut you down from doing anything else for the
Right.
turn. Thalia is obviously going to be good. It's unusual to see Thalias in the sideboard, but
Yeah.
I suppose in this deck where we're not a prison deck or prison-ish, we're just boarding into this against combo decks. I think Gideon Trials is fine.
I agree. I think Zealous Persecution's a must
I-
because you got to
yes.
answer these True Name Nemesis.
And the Pyromancers.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think Liliana of the Last Hope is definitely coming in.
Yep.
It kills the Pyromancer.
Same
Kills
reason.
Delver pre-flip.
Vindicate just seems like a solid all-around answer.
I think we could easily be bringing in half dozen cards, if not more.
Got to be a little careful on your curve here. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to play too much into the days. Assuming Mark leaves them in, I assume he would.
I think. He's seeing 3-mana Planeswalkers come in.
Right.
So probably.
Yeah.
These cards we can take out. I don't know that Collective Brutality is a card that we're going to keep in. Like, it's playable, certainly, but I think we can do better.
I agree.
I think these cards we're looking at are better.
Is Bitter Blossom too slow? He's on the play, so I kind of want to leave that one in.
I can see that. I can see leaving it in.
The Sword of Fire and Ice seems good here.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Swords to Plowshares, but those are effective.
So I wonder, is it... Batterskull's obviously good, but it's somewhat slow, and it gets shut down by Trinity Nemesis. If we're going to board an equipment out, it's going to be the Batterskull, I would think.
I would think so. It's really hard to ever want to board out Batterskull, though.
Yeah. Is Council Judgment going to go out in order to just have cheaper things? Because Council Judgment at its best is going to kill True Nemesis.
Right.
And Zealous Persecution does the same thing for less mana.
And you know the sideboard plan, so you can see if there's any Planeswalkers
That's
that are
true.
coming in, for
Yeah.
example. So Council Judgment might be a little slow.
Yeah.
I could see that.
All right. Can we go to Mark's deck list? And we'll take a look here. Brazen Borrower, like we said before, is solid against equipment
Mm-hmm.
and in general disrupting combat. You can get Bitter Blossom off the board if you draw a counter after it hits.
Right.
So that's something.
2 Flusterstorm, don't seem very important here. A Forked Bolt, we saw Lingering Souls. I think that's probably a reasonable inclusion. 2 Pyroblast, not really at its best. Red Elemental Blast, which is basically the same card. 3 Surgical, 2 Abrade, those will certainly come in, and then 2 Blood Moons. What do you think about the Blood Moons? We saw some black-white lands, but we also saw some creature lands in the...
Yeah.
Well, there's Caracas, there was only one Shambling Band. So maybe those aren't good enough.
So, if it was in the dark,
Yeah.
it's possible they come in, but because we have open deck lists, Mark can see that Tom has 3 swamps and 3 plains.
Right.
I do not think we'll see the Blood Moons.
I agree. Yeah.
But yeah, Braid, great. Brazen Borrower is probably coming in. Fork Bolt, reasonably likely to come in. So what are we potentially pulling out here? Are we happy with 6 forces? I would think we are not.
I would also agree, and I also think these spell piercers are probably okay, but I think some number of the 6 forces can come out for sure.
A lot of them, I think.
Yeah.
Do
you need 4 bolts and 2 chain lightnings? Is that?
I think we probably do because we don't want to leave Stoneforge Mystic active. If he does pitch a Batterskull, we want that to be stuck in hand if we don't have an Abrade. Although we're bringing in Abrades anyway, maybe we could
Exactly. That's
we
kinda
could
what I'm
take
thinking, yeah.
okay. We could conceivably, if we're gonna take some out, I would say take out the Sorcery Speed Chain Lightnings.
Yeah.
That could happen. Dazes maybe get I think Counter Magic is the number one thing we want to get rid of. If you want to leave in some, or there's more cards you want, then I think we could go to Chain Lightnings.
This could be a situation where you board out like Dazes on the draw, and then on the play, like you're board out your like Forces and trim on those.
Yeah.
Just because you don't want something sticky that gets under you.
We don't really want Bitter Blossom to hit because we don't have great ways of dealing with it. But I think we're looking at maybe 2 Forces maximum after boarding here.
Right.
Especially against when we're playing against a deck with discard spells. We don't want to be
2 for winning ourselves.
Yeah, we don't want to be entering into that situation. These are games that where the Dead Guy deck is trying to generate material advantages from its creatures, and the Delver deck is not. It's trying to just win the game before any of that matters.
Right.
So, Force of Will helps you do that, but it's in the clash between the two decks. I think I want to trim them a lot. Overall, in the matchup, I think I'd probably rather be on the black-white side.
That's what it looks like on paper to me.
Certainly in the sideboard games, I think the black-white deck, whatever. Now, obviously you can't put a percentage on whose favorite game won,
right.
But whatever we did put, I think the black-white deck is gaining in the sideboard exchange.
More than the Izza deck, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So, both of these decks operating on just 2 colors. Is that what we're seeing nowadays in Legacy? Or are people still playing 3? That's what's surprising to me, that both of these players showed up with just a 2-color deck.
2-color deck we should have. In the past, you'd say the fewer colors you have, the cleaner mana you would have. That's not always the case, especially now in Legacy we have Fetch Lands, Dual Lands, and now we have Astrolabes.
Right.
So it does. You do get on the board much faster though, because we have a number of Astrolabe decks. Probably their best turn 1 play is Astrolabe, which has no impact on the board whatsoever.
Right.
So you're giving up some tempo in order to do things like that, and these decks are trying to. Well, especially the Delver deck is trying to take advantage of that.
And some of the decks are leveraging that Astrolabe in different ways, like turning it into an Elk potentially.
Sure.
But yeah, I agree.
Okay. So we had Mark Mulligan game 1 and win, and now we have Tom Mulligan in game 2. So let's see if he can repeat the feat that Mark just pulled off and even up the match.
So we're gonna see a swamp fetched up here. Let's see.
Another card, if the players were looking for, a last card to cut to bring in sideboard cards, both players, I think, could conceivably convince themselves to trim a Wasteland.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
More so on
Mark's side?
I actually think Mark's Wastelands are more valuable because there are more non-basics on Tom's side that he's relying on. I guess maybe that's not true because we have Caracas, which doesn't matter actually.
Especially post board, 3 swamp, 3 plains. He can fetch up those. He probably only needs 2 swamp and a plains. To
Actually, if Mark, if he was wanting to trim a land, could cut Wasteland. Tom actually could cut a Caracas.
Oh, sure.
Which has no value in the matchup, and
other than that, it's a white source.
Right, and you could potentially get stuck and have to ledger mill yourself.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so we had
a Thoughtseize take a Daze.
That is not an ideal card to take because it's with the knowledge of it being there, you can just try and play around it. That doesn't mean it's the wrong choice, but just in a vacuum, it's not an ideal card that you want to take with a Thoughtseize.
Tom goes land pass, has Inquisition and Stoneforge Mystic in his hand. And there's a second copy of Inquisition. Those are Inquisitions, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
This will likely take a Spell Pierce. Does Tom have a third land?
I was just going to say, don't have a land here.
Okay.
And if you do have a land here, you have to play it and just face the embarrassment. But, okay.
Yeah, he didn't go for the second Inquisition. Had he, it would have been Dazed. Likely, anyway. Mark gets that perfect Brainstorm.
So he's gonna he could have a Delver here, but his real scary threats all cost 2. Well, don't all cost 2, but they cost at least 2.
What is our follow-up from Mark here? So, play draw on this with this is a deck. I mean, you always just want to play, right? Like against I mean, Daze is just so much more powerful.
Daze is better when you're going first, and also discard spells are much better when you're going first.
Right.
So yeah, there's is going first on 6 better than going second on 7? I'm not sure, but it's probably close.
Tom picks up a copy of Batterskull for the turn. This is the second time in the 2 games that he has drawn the Batterskull with a Stoneforge in hand. Not something you usually want. So here we see 2 Young Pyromancers and basically 3 Lightning Bolt effects.
And this is probably not that surprising. There had to be, I mean, Mark hasn't been playing very much, and his deck doesn't cost very much, so these cards had to be here. Wow, that's
a little surprising.
Yes.
I agree, especially after last game taking the Young Pyromancer so highly.
Even if you were able to correctly determine that you wanted to take one of the burn spells, we chose the instant over the sorceries. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, not taking the Pyromancers.
What if Tom knows that there's a Zealous Persecution on top of his deck?
But then we still need another one.
Within the next 2 draws.
But we still need
Will
2.
Mark deploy both?
Both? If our plan in the championship is relying on our opponent deploying double Pyromancer into our sweeper, that's optimistic.
Yeah.
I would not personally want to be depending on that.
So it does look like Mark is setting up to cast that Young Pyromancer. Typically you want to fetch first just in case there's any fetch shenanigans. We're going to get that token immediately.
Yeah, we're getting a token. I mean, converting a Chain Lightning into 3 damage plus a token is fine. It's obviously nicer to being able to actually kill a creature. All right.
And there's a Liliana.
Well, that's not going to do much. What are we? Okay, there's a Lingering Souls. There's a Stoneforge
Mystic. There's a Brutality. So I think we can go Brutality escalate with the Lingering Souls and then take a Bolt plus kill the Young Pyromancer.
Dude, that would be a perfectly solid turn.
It would be much better was there not a second Young Pyromancer in the hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but we have Stoneforge Mystic. We can hopefully deal with that somehow. I mean, because you're right. We could
have all the threats dealt with.
We could
right?
be. Yeah, we certainly could.
Yeah.
Now, if this resolves, we're probably still going to be in pretty reasonable shape, but let's see. Okay.
You picked up a third copy of Young Pyromancer. All right. Well, we got to get through these. One Pyromancer at a time.
So if you're Mark and you don't draw a spell here, you're obviously playing Pyromancer either way.
Yeah.
The next turn, if you haven't drawn a spell, are you playing the second Pyromancer? I still don't think you are.
Because deck lists are open, I agree with that you probably shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But Tom does have a discard in his deck,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So here's the Stoneforge. That is going to set us up pretty well for next turn. We're going to take a hit.
So maybe Tom's plan here was to strip all of these bolts and chain lightning so that this Stoneforge could live. Now Mark drew Magmatic Sinkhole, which is probably going to take this.
Does this Pyromancer attack into... Okay. Okay.
Oh, it's a Fork Bolt. Sure.
Either way. Yeah. This is...
Zealous Persecution.
We may be in a spot where we're not winning... We're not winning to any sort of removal spell, so we may as well just dump the second one. We're not beating the first sweeper.
Okay.
So let's just put them both out there. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but we are certainly acting if it's true. Is that a Canonist we just drew?
Yep. Looks like we're going with the Lingering Souls.
That's nice. That should stop the Pyromancers from attacking.
Right.
Although, boy, with Trom at 9, if Mark you're completely empty-handed, you just send everything.
I think if you have a spell in hand, I'm more likely to want to hold it back one turn. Because you go to 7 this turn, and you make 2 more.
It would have to be a counter. Otherwise, everything else that you have would be able to be deployed.
Right.
I think if we had a spell there, I think we just cast it and then send with everything. But okay, we have Thalia. That's a little late. I don't know. Tom's not looking. Okay, well that's. So I was gonna say Tom's not really.
You know what?
Great, but
you know what the problem with this Thalia is? It makes it so Zealous isn't an out because he can't. pay
He can't
for
cast it. Yeah.
And none of these creatures kill Thalia in combat. So he can't even block to remove Thalia, to potentially
So
draw
we're basically
into
a standoff
Persecution.
then. Tom is sitting here, and Mark can't really. Let's see if we
Well,
tap.
he attacks for 2 each turn. For every spell, right?
Sure.
He just
Yeah.
ships in 3
Yeah.
1/1s, which I think you totally should do.
Mm-hmm. So if we attack, so we're not attacking this turn unless we're sacrificing Pyromancers, which
Right.
I don't think we're doing. So
I
we're just
agree.
so we're waiting for next turn. Yeah. If Tom's hand is loaded.
Right. He has to draw a land next turn.
Yeah.
Looks like Mark picked up a copy of True Name Nemesis off of this brainstorm.
Well, that's going to be very good.
Can't currently deploy it.
It actually, boy, okay, a little sleight of hand there on the fetch land where we knew the top card of the deck looks a little fishy, but it's not.
Yep.
If we have True Name here, do you cast it? Because aren't you winning?
Like
aren't you winning anyway if there's no Zealous Persecution? Maybe not, but. So what are we drawing to here? 2 persecutions or 1 persecution?
It's a land plus persecution.
Yeah. We don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't even have that time.
Right.
We're dead on the board next turn if we have nothing else. There's so many cards in Tom's hand. It has to have something.
Right. Attacking for 3 here. Attacking for 3 because 1 Pyromancer will get blocked.
Sure.
But again, like, if he draws Persecution, this is going to be... Like, the Canonist basically did what Thalia could do. All right, we drew Thoughtseize.
That is not going to help. Jitte is not going to help.
He needs to deploy 2 creatures this turn. And I don't think that he can.
No. 2 creatures... 2 creatures isn't enough.
Right.
He would still die. Or 1, 2... No, you're right. We put him to 1. Yeah, and he's done to the True Name. So the True Name Nemesis that I would have been hesitant to even cast ends up finishing the game off.
Wow.
Yeah, that was... I mean, we're land short on Tom's side there. He shows the 1 persecution that was in the deck somewhere. But, yeah, didn't have the land to cast it anyway.
Right. Probably just talking, this was my only out.
Yeah. Which, the kind of showing, oh, well, this is what I had to draw, is slightly less effective when the opponent knows your deck list in the first place.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But still, yeah, makes you feel a little like, oh, I did have this in here.
So, kind of reflecting on how this match went, like, we looked at kind of Tom's deck and thought he had all of the pieces. But this Illusion Delver deck just generated some card advantage, had some very efficient counter magic with some dazes, and was able to capitalize. Now, in game 2 here, Tom was a little mana hosed. Part of that was due to was there a wasteland in this game? There wasn't even a wasteland in this game. So
we're a little light on mana. I do feel like we
did see Mark take out a wasteland by the way. Yeah.
We did resolve some discard spells.
So there were some sequencing things that we could.
Arguably, we could have chosen differently.
I think Tom had a game plan in mind, and it might be certainly different than what ours were. But I'm certain that Tom had ideas in mind on what he wanted to do with these discards. And maybe his plan was to hope, like, I got to rely on my next 2 cards being lands.
Yeah.
And they weren't based on his game plan that he tried to execute.
Yeah, and he's clearly trying to clear the way for his creatures to be able to do work. And he did manage to remove... There were 3 burn spells in Mark's hand, and they were all expended either into the graveyard or at Tom's face. And yet he didn't have... Yet the Thalia just wasn't enough. We needed a Stoneforge Mystic to live. And we didn't have it.
Yeah, and sometimes as a player, I think we fall into that trap. And one thing to think about is, like, if you take your opponent's threat and you just leave them with reaction, like, let's say Mark's hand is now just 3 bolts, right? And you have 6 cards in hand that you haven't deployed. You can fight 3 of those bolts really easily, right?
Yeah.
And that's something you got to think about with, what's in your hand versus your opponent's.
Yeah. No. I don't think we can say that stripping another Pyromancer and leaving the Lightning Bolt would have changed the outcome of the match.
Right.
But I think we can argue that it's possible it would have.
Yeah, I mean, every line you take, is going to have a different branch of a possibility. So, I mean, that's what makes Magic so wonderful. Yeah. It's like you just continue branching off. You can have millions different of iterations of every single game, really.
Yeah. Definitely facing a tempo deck, the burn spells are always going to be able to do their burn damage.
Right.
But if you're not taking the creature damage, it's hard to go all the way with just the burn. Right. And so...
I mean, there's only, 6 8 3-damage burn spells. It's only 18.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a way to think about it for sure.
All right.
Well, we do have one of our other commentators, Matt. He's out looking for a backup match for us. So if we're able to find one, we'll certainly bring that to you. But I think for the time being, we're going to take a quick break, just a couple minutes, and we'll be back to talk more about Legacy, and we're going to go see what's going on with some of our players. We'll see.